Hi folks, my name is Mike Dobbs. I'm your host here for Government Matters, and my producer Steve Carey has got the tranquilizer gun ready because this is one of my favorite topics to talk about, which is local history. And so if we run over time and I just slump, he's shot me. I don't blame him because I could occupy these people's times for hours talking about this. We're going to be talking about the Springfield Preservation Trust, which is a fabulous organization of people living in Springfield and in the area who seek the opportunities to not only illuminate Springfield history through a variety of programs, but also importantly, to encourage historic preservation of our housing stock and other buildings here. And even though Springfield, like a lot of communities, has lost a lot of its historic buildings, starting in the 1960s with urban renewal, we've got a lot of people who very proudly try to preserve their buildings. So we have with us the president of the organization, Erica Swallow, and then Sean Johnson, executive vice president and co-chair of community events, right? Do I have that? All right. So let's talk a little bit about what the trust is for people who may not be familiar with it, even though you guys are very active with any number of events and things that you do. So Erica, how would you describe the trust to someone?
Yeah, so the trust was founded in 1972 right here in Springfield. So it's been going for over 50 years, and it's all focused around preserving, protecting, and promoting historic properties in Springfield. We do that through advocacy efforts such as our most endangered historic resources list and our preservation awards, annual awards for great preservation work, and also through community events and educational programs such as our second Saturday tours and our winter lecture series. And we have a lot of other programming throughout the year, but those are some of our mainstay programs that helps get the community involved in active preservation and educates them about what has been done and what needs to be done.
Now, when we talk about events, I know we've got some stuff coming up. Sean, if you can talk a little bit about some of the ongoing events coming up. I know that we have these second Saturday tours and programs coming up, and you've got one October 11th, which is on our industrial legacy. And then on the 18th, you do a thing that you've done, I don't know how many years, called Voices from the Grave. So are you helping to organize those?
Yes, I help organize those events and other events that we have throughout the year. Program-wise, we look at the different aspects of who's going to be featured on the programs, just so we can get a better representation of the community as a whole, historically speaking, to show the diversity that we do have throughout the history in the city of Springfield. And also, we'd like to definitely highlight the different properties and different sites throughout the city of Springfield. So there's a great rotation that highlights things that were created here, things that have been done here in the past, or the people who've come through the city and their impact and influence during these events and stuff. And then we try and bring today's stuff to show like how it made it to today from the past and stuff, to highlight it. So the Voices from the Grave is a great example of where we get to show the different people who resided in the city, and then to explain like their impacts or in history, so that they aren't forgotten and stuff. So that's something that I definitely love doing. And last year I participated with a different character. This year I'm going to be somebody different. And I should have a wife this year.
Yep.
Well, last year I didn't have a wife at the grave.
Really
So we're really moving up with the number of characters that we have, and giving people those examples and stuff of the history, the rich history of Springfield.
I know I've been to at least one of those events, and it was impressive to me, particularly the amount of research, because we're not necessarily talking about famous people. No. We're talking about people who lived here, who did accomplish things, and certainly could be used as sort of a sample of the folks who lived here. So how long does it take you to prepare who you want to feature in the graveyard tour?
I'll take that one. So a lot of these over the past decade have been organized by our secretary, Mike Stevens. He, as well as our former president, Derek Strahan, both of them are kind of the center for the initial research, but Mike is really the one that takes that helm of figuring out the path we're going to walk through the cemetery. Usually it's Springfield Cemetery or St. Michael's Cemetery, and who is going to be featured. So he starts by trying to figure it out. It actually takes him, I feel like, months to do, because we want to try to make sure that we have diverse voices represented,
Sure.
as well as an accessible path. So sometimes the really cool story is way up on a hill and there's 14 really uneven granite steps you have to get up. And so that's not going to work for our audience, and to have something that's accessible for everyone. And then that from there, we need to recruit our actors. So we're actually finalizing that right now for a couple characters. So we're a month out from that event, but a little over a month, and we're finalizing a couple of the characters, trying to find someone who has a similar look. And we try to pick. The good thing about a lot of these people is they lived pretty long lives. Some of them died young. We have one character who died young in this one, so we've got that filled with a youngster. But some of these people, they live till 80, 90, so we can pick someone, to portray at a certain point in their life. Mm-hmm. But that is a process that takes a few months to get it all together.
I would think it could be pretty intensive to get your candidates going, and then to do the research, and then to find someone to portray that person.
So it's initial research about their general, who they were, and if they meet the threshold of having influence in Springfield. And then once we choose the character's actor, we will then have that person do all of the research for the individual and also write their script. Some people write a script. I'm someone who needs to actually write something down so I don't go too off tangent. But we have other actors like Dennis Picard, who's been portraying people for decades, and not just at the Trust.
From Storyton, right?
Yeah, from Storyton Village. So he doesn't write scripts. He just is the character. So he just has it all down. But last year, for example, I played Anne Sophia Merrick, who was a Civil War nurse, and she also was the wife of the inventor of the monkey wrench, Mr. Merrick. So that was a cool character to portray because of her work as an early nurse in American, war nursing, but also the connection to the monkey wrench, which is a big deal nationally, internationally, but clearly in Springfield, that it was created here.
Yes. Well, we are the city of firsts.
Yes.
And it's a phrase that I use to describe us, and then I have to tell people what I mean by that.
I can say on our second Saturday tour on October 11th, I'm the tour guide actually. So for the Made in Springfield tour about our industrial past. So I'm also wrapping up my research on that and trying to finalize my downtown path, but we'll be looking at history downtown and what made us the city of firsts.
What I like about the work that you do is that it's revelations. It's you're showing something that people may go by, walk by, drive by every day of their lives.
Right.
They aren't sure what these older buildings might be, what they might represent. People sort of, when you start telling them about what was here, I think sometimes they're surprised, and I think sometimes it goes past surprise and now to amazement. It's like Milton Bradley. Essentially, Milton Bradley was huge in the creation of board games, and the Milton Bradley industrial complex, their factory, is where Stockbridge Court is, and then we have the Milton Bradley School, and people wonder, why is that the school? Well, that was the office building before then they moved the whole operations to East Long Meadow after they got purchased by Hasbro. And to me, it's like there's so many hidden stories that you drive by something and you get used to your ignorance. And what I like about this is like, wow, suddenly, it's like, this is really cool. You can find out an awful lot. Mm-hmm. And as I mentioned in the introduction, we lost a lot of our buildings by urban renewal, thinking, well, let's just tear down all this crap. But we've had a lot of successes. The reclaiming of Union Station is a huge success.
Yeah.
You know, even though we don't know where the benches are.
Yeah. A lot of
And for our
disappearing.
viewers, I covered that story through years, and there were the beautiful long, probably oak or another hardwood benches where people used to sit for their trains. And one day they were all gone. We don't know what happened.
Or why?
Well, I always said, let's go to Brimfield and see if they turn up there, you know,
That's this weekend.
in all honesty.
Yes.
But you guys really do a lot of really, really positive work to unveil all of this, to let people see that it's just not buildings, it's history. It's just not history, it's people. And it's events that continue to influence us to this day. Now, did you do your calendar this year?
Yes, we do have our calendar.
Let's talk about that.
I brought one actually.
Because the reason I'm bringing it up is that the poor Mattoon Street Festival was pretty much washed out in many ways. And I
definitely.
know that's a very key place for you folks. Oh, postcards.
Yes, so this one's a really cool one. We've always done, I have a couple with me. So we've always done neighborhoods. So this was the Quadrangle Mattoon Street from last year, and then, or from 2025. And then prior to that, we had the McKnight Historic District where Sean lives. But this year, we, for the first time, did historic postcards. And there's about 10% of the collection that a couple of our, so we have, I'll start at this. We have a really large physical collection of historic postcards between a couple of our members, Jim Boone,
Yep.
John Zeb, and Paul Meager. And so those three gentlemen came together and said, how can we make these more accessible to other people? It's about 20, it's at least 2,000. It might be 2,300 postcards. Some are represented here. And then you just have,
very nice.
we have about 230 postcards represented here in different categories. So we have industrial, here's industry and manufacturing, city of homes, more city of homes, lots of residences, parks and recreation. Some of my favorite are the ones that have people in them, so you can see the
Right.
from the era of the postcard what exactly there. It's also fun to see what people were writing on the backs. This is municipality infrastructure. So this is a really cool calendar, 2026 calendar, and one of the projects. So what we're doing right now is digitizing this entire collection. We're working with Digital Commonwealth out of the Boston Public Library. And also we have a wonderful intern, Devin McDaniel from the Springfield Technical Community College, who is doing all of the metadata work for us. We were inspired off the Springfield College Cliff Smith YMCA postcard collection, which you can find online. It is the most referenced collection in the archives at Springfield College, and it really is just old postcards from not just Springfield, but from around the world about YMCA history, because the YMCA was founded here in Springfield. So we're using the same platform, Digital Commonwealth, and with the Boston Public Library to digitize it so that both the fronts and backs will be available for researchers or just historians or history buffs who want to see what Springfield was like back in the day. And there are buildings represented which are now demolished in these, so we can actually, this is one place where you can actually see what they look like.
Yep.
We don't have a lot of photographic evidence for some of these for some of these buildings, but this is a really cool way to have access. And the calendar is a fun way to see about a tenth of the collection in little tiny format, but a really cool way to have it for yourself.
The second book I wrote for Arcadia, and the book is available here in Springfield at local drugstores, called A Postcard History of Springfield.
Oh, cool.
So
That's right,
And what I did is I just went and bought. Jim Boone did help me out. There was another gentleman in East Long Meadow who helped me out with some images. And the key to collecting postcards of the area you're from is to buy them not in the area you're from.
Yeah.
So when we go on the Cape, there's a couple places that sell postcards. So the Springfield postcards are real cheap.
Yeah.
Because everyone's buying Cape stuff.
Yeah.
But I love the postcard images. And that's a great calendar, and it's lovely to have them in color. I didn't have that option with Arcadia. Arcadia only does black and white. But at least I was able to show things that maybe alter today, or maybe a little bit fantastical. Like, I don't know if Union Station ever really had that huge
line of people.
Well, no, that huge area of land in front of it. That it just looks like it just looks like that maybe the engravers added that. So anyway, yeah, I love postcards. I think collecting postcards of your area is an incredible way of learning about the history of your area.
Some of our collectors, you mentioned getting the postcards from not where you're from. So John Zeb bought a large portion of his from Springfield, the antique market out there. And then another good place that I also buy them is just on eBay. You can just look up Springfield, Massachusetts postcards.
Yeah, I'm cheap though.
Oh yeah, cheap.
So
yes,
I
50
will.
cents a dollar at a yard sale, or $5.
My family moved to Virginia, and there was a great antique market near my mom's house, and I got a ton of Springfield stuff there, and it was like 50 cents a card because, again, nobody was interested in that stuff. They were interested in their own locale.
Yeah.
So
I found some really amazing things, though. I found some original Barney and Barry skates from Everett Barney. Used to have skates. I found those for like $10 on eBay. That's pretty cheap for original skates. And I've also found, I also like advertisements from some of the companies in our area, just to mention the Barney and Barry advertisements. You can find those from time, on eBay. They'll sell them for $3, $4, free shipping, media mail. So sounds like an advertisement for eBay.
and what the postcards also reveal is not just what is here, but what is missing.
Yes.
And which this is my segue to the endangered buildings issue that you guys always talk about. You will, on your website, have a whole group of buildings that need work, may be actually in danger in terms of being knocked down, removed. And for me, living in the Maple High Six Corners neighborhood for many years now, I see the row houses on Maple Street every day of my life. And as a journalist, I think I went to probably 3 or 4 different press conferences with developers saying, yep, we're going to fix this up. And sometimes I really do believe that a block like that, if it was in Northampton, would have been better preserved. And it's not because there's there's not intrinsically some sort of advantage about being in Northampton, but I do think in a large city like Springfield, some of the stuff falls through the cracks. And in a smaller city with an emphasis on real estate development, it might have been better preserved. Do you guys know what the status of those buildings are at this point? I mean, they got signs up saying they're going to be fixed up, but...
Well, like I said, they're working on it and stuff. To what degree it's being done, I couldn't speak to that.
Yeah. I can say that so there's 6 units. 4 of them are already privately owned by an LLC that I know one of the developers, Paul Bongiorni. He's a commercial real estate agent in the area and just went off and made his own brokerage, actually. So he's doing really great things, really strong community engager, and really into historic preservation. And then the other 2, which I believe are still owned by the city, but his LLC was chosen as the preferred developer for those 2. I think there's some potentially CPA or some sort of development money already connected to those 2 units. So in short, those 6 are now owned by the same company and with somebody who I feel we feel has the ability to get the work done. And right now he's working on putting the financing together, which is the big difficulty with historic preservation, especially when buildings have gone that far past being an acceptable building to be inside of. So The
Right.
two building, one of the two units that are owned by the city, one of them had a fire last year, then it had another fire. So it had two fires and within a very short period of time. That roof, the city did get the roof tarped so that we would minimize the water intrusion. And I did see after the current owner is or the preferred developer, I did see after that was announced an even better tarp got put on. So I have a feeling that he's going to pull it together, but the costs of developing that are really high. But I would say that the city clearly agrees because I believe there might have been multiple potential developers.
Yeah.
I think there were two, maybe.
There were two. The city was actively in the beginning looking for a developer. They did come to us in trying to figure out a way to get somebody to do the development prior to him getting those buildings and stuff. So the city had been working in the background trying to get that done.
Sean is on the advocacy committee at the trust too. Do you want to talk about how those developers come to the trust to ask for support?
So yes. So what happens is that typically when there is a project or a building that they're interested in, they'll come to us and they'll have their idea of what they would like to do. And we'll just like with anybody, we'll sit down and we'll explain to them the process and the things that they need to present or what can be considered for the development and stuff to meet the criteria. Because there's besides buildings, there's parks and different things that they might be interested in, and we'll see how it's tied together or try to give them ideas or point them in the right direction towards getting it done. So we do work with developers who come with, who just have the ambition, as long as they match the effort and stuff.
Right.
We try to help them get it done, So.
One of the things we're looking for when someone is presenting their idea is if they are meeting the Secretary of Interior standards for historic preservation. And so we're not going to be able to assess, does their budget make sense? Is this realistic?
No.
Or even, is their history of development strong enough for them to be able to do this project? We try not to comment on that, but we've seen enough projects on the advocacy committee has reviewed projects since the 1970s, basically. So they've seen enough to have a general idea if they think that developer is likely to be able to complete it or not. But really what we're focusing on is, do they have the elements in here that are preserving all the necessary aspects of the building? So if they say they're going to be replacing the original porches, if we're going to take all those down,
Yep.
actually, all those row house porches, because they're in such bad condition, we'll say we're not supporting we're not going to support that.
Right.
But if they say we are going to use similar materials to preserve this, and we're even going to try to put slate roofing back on at least that, these portions, et cetera, et cetera. When we see them going in the right direction and they've got that all clearly outlined in a plan, then that's whenever they're likely to get a support letter from the trust.
Right.
Let me toss out another name, the Campanile. I was trying to think back how many years ago when the late Bill Putnam, who had founded and owned TV22, basically came out of his retirement home in Arizona to try to lead a capital campaign to fix the Campanile, and unfortunately he passed. And it seems like with his passing, the emphasis was gone on trying to fix that. And so now we've got this interesting historical structure that has got various braces of literally holding it together, and it's really a shame. Mm-hmm. Is there any news on what's happening with that particular structure?
So the best insight I have is that in speaking with the city, there's basically the news is there's no news because there's no budget. What the news is that the cost of repair continues to increase.
Right.
But it is the symbol of our city. It's actually on the Springfield seal.
Yeah.
And when Springfield is represented, it's often the one visual you think of. But it has I don't know when the architectural report was done, but there was a structural report prepared by a big firm. It's 100+ pages long, and it basically states that there's metal rods, I think it's iron, but some sort of metal structure on the interior which have deteriorated, and also that the stonework's deteriorating and falling off. So they've put these metal mesh holders on all corners at this point to make sure that at least the crumbling rocks don't, stones don't fall and hurt anybody. But there's a lot of structural damage to the campanile, and I believe, if I recall, the estimate is 35 million. It might have been back in the day somewhere around 20 million, but it's just really gotten much higher. And there was a campaign, I believe it was 2018, but it's definitely on our website on the campanile page, that a blue ribbon committee was put together, which included Richie Neal even, to try to do that capital campaign, and not enough, I think it was $200,000 maybe was committed for a $20 million project around that time.
Right.
So now we're at 35 million, if I understand correctly, and we really do need to get this money raised. So at the Trust, we are actually nominating this structure for the Preservation Massachusetts Most Endangered Historic Resources list. That's a state level nonprofit, which is kind of equivalent to Springfield Preservation Trust, but on the state level. They do very similar type of advocacy work, and a couple years ago, the Isolation Hospital was put on the list for one of the top endangered buildings in the state as well. So we'll see if the state level agrees that this building should be on the top list. And when we do something like that, we're trying to help the owner, in this case the city of Springfield, in telling a story to go and find that funding. And we would love to see state money, or maybe federal even, to preserve this building, since it's a part of the municipal group, and what was it was and is and has, will continue to be important to the central fabric of our architectural landscape.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me toss out one more name, and that's the Paramount block. I mean, I know we've got an owner. I know we've got Community Preservation Act money that's been allocated. Because I'm a movie guy, I am very concerned about preservation. I'd like to see it restored, and then somebody who has some idea what to do with it actually does stuff with it. I'll just mention quickly, last year I went to Capitol Fest, which is a film festival of silent and early talkie films in Rome, New York.
Cool.
And it's at their Capitol Theater. And they've done a lovely job restoring it. So you really do get that sense of what it was like to go to the movies in the 1920s and 30s at this one single screen, big, nice theater.
Yeah.
With the organ, and the organ has sound effects. It's great.
I've been to Stanford Theater in Stanford, California, also amazing. It's probably similar experience.
And I would love to see something like that for our Paramount. I'd love to see the organ restored, et cetera, et cetera. Have you been able to get any conversation with the new owner about maybe what their timeline is like or what they plan to do? I'm just curious.
Not yet. I mean, but that's something that would definitely be in the works as we reach out, as they go through whatever their planning process is for the building. I mean, they did acquire it. They have applied for funds to redo their roof. And so, going forward, of course, they're going to need a letter of support eventually to apply for doing some more of the renovations and stuff. And there'll definitely be opportunity to have those types of conversations. But we do understand that the Paramount is a key piece of Springfield's history, the location, where it's at in the downtown area. It really is like we're looking at the big, like, two corners, and that's like one of the biggest corners for us, like as an icon in the city. So. Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and it's the only downtown theater left. Yeah. Because Springfield had a whole bunch of theaters downtown.
One of our board members, Nels Fry, is actually very close with the developer, and he was the one who suggested that they purchase it actually through the auction. And what I hear from Nels is that the developer has developed another theater in Connecticut, so has the chops to do it. And I'll also mention that along with Paramount Theater, they also own Massasoit House, which is in its own right historically significant. I want to mention that it's included on the Pan-African Historical Museum USA PAMUSA tours that they do, I believe weekly, but they also do a tour with us for Juneteenth, and it goes by Massasoit House, and I'm just blown away by the fact that that folks who escaped slavery used to work there as they used to work in the restaurant there, and would from time to time encounter their enslavers coming to this area to try to find them. But that is one of the stories that PAMUSA tells too, another great historical nonprofit in Springfield. But that, alongside the Paramount Theater, will be developed together. It's likely that it used to be a hotel. It's housed a lot of really interesting people, apparently multiple U.S. presidents, and the theater. So it'll be interesting to see how they play with them. I hope they also decide to restore the theater and make that a place for movies, and maybe even, I hear that it could hold Broadway plays, maybe. I think it's deep enough or whatnot. And then we'll see about what they do with what the Massasoit Hotel, I hear, probably housing on that, so which makes sense. Downtown we have a lack of housing, and just generally housing crunch all over. So.
Okay, I got to wrap this up. I know I've gone over time. Steve will dock my paycheck accordingly. But let's do some housework here. Is the best way to learn about what's coming up the website?
SpringfieldPreservation.org, yes.
Okay, so October 11th, we've got the tour downtown of the Industrial Legacy. October 18th, we got the Voices from the Grave. Those are two things that are coming up. And where can you buy that calendar?
You can also buy this on the website. Up on the support SPT link, you'll have an ability to buy the calendar. You can also buy it at any of our events, pretty much. If you come to the tour or you go to the cemetery, Voices from the Grave cemetery tour, we'll have them on hand. So you'll be ready for January.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. Thank you very much for coming in. As I said, this is something that I can talk about ad nauseum. But if any of you out there are truly interested in the history of the city, you need to support the Springfield Preservation Trust. Get involved with it as much as you can. Come to their events, because they're really doing very, very good work. The history of our city, the buildings in this city actually are an attraction for people to come and settle here and to invest here. And these guys are volunteers on the front line, so I really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Thank you. Thanks for supporting the mission.
And folks, thanks for watching Government Matters here on Focus Springfield.